All right. Welcome to Everything is Wrestling. I am Jason Rossi. We came up with the title for the show. It's just going to be a quick little hit, some of the news, notes, and things that are happening in the world of professional wrestling. I am psyched to be sitting here on a Saturday, a very snowy Saturday in north of Boston. But I can tell you I'm psyched because it was a week ago today that we had the Royal Rumble. Why am I psyched? Because I love these Saturday events. Like, I know there's a lot of disappointment. We'll talk about it. But, man, the Saturday pay-per-view, just a whole nother vibe. Kind of lets you digest the event a little bit more. I think it gives the creative of WWE a little bit of time, regardless of what you think of the creative. I just like the vibe that we have gotten on the Saturday pay-per-view so far. But let's get into it. We'll start. We're going to go around a little bit. Royal Rumble, as a whole, I thought it was a good event. As you know, as a part of the podcast that I'm part of, Pop Culture Pile Driver, we do things on the scale of 11, which is the podcaster's dozen. So I think overall, the Royal Rumble was like a 7.5, 8 out of 11. No, the men's Royal Rumble, I understand. Any criticism anybody has, I'm open to it. At the end of the day, I still believe Brock Lesnar was I shouldn't say he was the right winner, because that's wrong. But I understand the booking decision, even though I'm going to contradict myself on why, because of what happened on Raw. But I thought the Roman versus Seth match was just excellent storytelling, amazing match. Like, give me more of those guys. A little disappointed that they're not even touching on that story anymore. Like, the match ended with Roman getting disqualified. It's the first time he's lost a match, I think, since he's returned after the night of SummerSlam 2020. I think it's the first time he didn't win. Like, he isn't the winner of the match. So I thought that was very fascinating that we're just done with that. Like, interesting. And that whole story, as I said last time, for those that have listened, or it's weird. Seth Rollins' story kicked off at Money in the Bank of last year because he interfered in the match between Edge and Roman Reigns, which led to John Cena eventually coming out after. But Edge came back, said he wanted his one-on-one title match. Seth Rollins and him had like a backstage issue. Rollins saying he's the most deserving. He's been here. He's been winning, and he's been building momentum, which I don't particularly remember his booking. I know he lost to Cesaro at WrestleMania last year, and I don't know where he went there for a little bit. That's the problem with wrestling when things move fast and there's pay-per-view so often. Sometimes these characters, I just remember that arc. And then the whole arc was like, I'm going to get my title shot. Like, I'm going to be the one, like, to get to Roman as a heel. It was just, it was intriguing. And I really thought WWE had a plan to have Rollins Reigns at WrestleMania this year. I thought that would be the main event we were going with, or we were going to get, but not the direction they went. We got it at the Rumble. The booking, obviously, from where I just took place, we got a great feud between Edge and Rollins. I thought it was some of the best matches of last year, best stories of last year. But I thought just like this match, like, and then also don't forget, Seth Rollins won was it a ladder match, I believe, to qualify to face Big E one-on-one. That turned into a 4-way match, which then turned into at day one, which turned into a 5-way match. I'm like, okay, this is more fuel for this Rollins. And I'm thinking this is where we're going to get the face turn. And then all of a sudden he just shows up at the end of SmackDown one day as a Raw superstar, laughing in the face of Reigns, and he gets a title match. Weird. Gets the title match, has a really good match, comes out in the Shield gear, nice touch. It's a whole Shield retelling story. He one-ups Reigns at all moments, and then eventually Reigns can't handle it, beats him up with the chair, reenacts the Shield breakup move from Rollins. So I'm thinking, okay, we got ourselves a babyface here. They can reestablish, but like, you need to be smart if you're WWE. Like, so I understand. Who am I? I'm just a dude that's been watching forever and has seen good stories play out. And I think this is one that they actually could tell. I just think that it would come down to, like, keep Rollins like this weird, I think he explained himself like the Joker during a midlife crisis. I like this. I like the midlife crisis thing. You know, he's never been the same since The Fiend beat him for the title. I like that story, but like, now let it be a little more like, he can be a little wonky. He can be weird. He can be the Drip King, which, God, Drip gives me like cringe. But I think that could be a big part of this whole entire story. Like, let him slowly come out of that. He was on Raw. He's already kind of like in the back with Kevin Owens and their weird like friendship, but like, it's not overly interesting. And I don't want that to be the WrestleMania match, because we had it at WrestleMania 35. And I understand that was in front of the PC. Evan Owens jumped off the WrestleMania sign. It's a cool match. Rollins has been in some real quality matches at WrestleMania, like those last 2 years. Him and Cesaro, I'm personally, like, if you have me just watch one match from this past WrestleMania, I'm probably going actually Bianca and Sasha, but this one's right up there with me. Just fun, impactful. I think it was only like 7-8 minutes. I know that's usually, people think you're getting buried in 7-8 minutes, but I think it's actually like, if you can just go out there and just put on a show, that's all that matters. And I think those guys did it. But yeah, so Rollins is now kind of in like no man's land. Reigns is moving on to, which looks to, well, we'll get to this in a second, but for Royal Rumble, I just thought this is a good setup. We could get Rollins, Reigns. I'm assuming they're going to go back to it maybe post WrestleMania, but the fact that Rollins doesn't say anything about it, this is the thing I think for WWE fans and why WWE is losing that casual to week, but not like die hard. Like I'm a pretty big die hard, but I get tired of this stuff. Like Rollins coming out on Raw, barely beaten up, not really talking about the event, not talking about why he deserves the championship or deserves a rematch. And it's just like we're pivoting onto something else. Doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel right. That's just me. But the Royal Rumble from there, I just thought the Women's Rumble match was a ton of fun. Ronda winning, I still think is the right call. I understand there was some weird booking in there with her. Like I wanted her, so her and Brock Lesnar win the Rumbles, but neither one did what I thought when you're going to book these like massively strong, baby faces or just strong characters. Like I thought Ronda would come in at 28, eliminate everybody. Number 29 comes in, tosses them out. Number 30 comes in, tosses them out. And then you could still have the Charlotte Flair like went under and she comes to throw Ronda out. Ronda holds on, slides back in, gives her a suplex or, does the arm drag, does an arm drag, tosses her out. Like you need or the same thing with Brock. Brock comes out at 30. He should have just literally went in there, tossed everybody that was in there. Could have still had that moment with him and Drew at the end, and he tosses him out quick. Like they've never done that. And I think for both of them coming in so late, that could have been it. I'm also not sure how much I love the late entry, and I get the Ronda one, but I almost think it would have been cool if Brock came in at like 17 and or nailed somebody in the back, pissed. Like, what just happened? Because he got screwed out of his title against Bobby Lashley in a dream match that I think was pretty good. Like, I thought those guys put on a good show, so I got no complaints. Overall, the Royal Rumble was fine. Like, my theory and a lot of the defending I did for Brock Lesnar winning is I'd rather Brock win the Rumble. I know. But I'd rather him win the Rumble than go into an elimination chamber where you clearly know he's going to win. They did that with Roman Reigns a few years back, and it was just bad. Braun Strowman eliminated everybody in there, and then Reigns beat him. Like, I don't want that. I'd rather the elimination chamber give me more intrigue. The Rumble should too. At the end of the day, trust me, I was rooting for Drew, and I was kind of rooting for Riddle. I thought that because every year, this is where I buy in. Like, I start to believe in guys that, like, WWE's not giving me a reason to. Like, it was last year, I thought, Daniel Bryan, they're going to give it to him here. Like, but he wasn't really built up as a winner. There was a little bit of Big E buzz too in the 2021. Edge ended up winning from the number one spot that nobody will remember. Just like some guy who did it in like 2004, but we don't have to talk about that. But yeah, I just thought that was very fascinating. Then the backstage news breaks. Obviously, the big quote unquote forbidden door was open because he's no longer in the company. So Shane McMahon was the forbidden door. But Bad Bunny, Shane McMahon, Brock, those are your real big surprises. Knoxville was funny. Great time in there. But I guess like there was this whole, again, allegedly, I don't know what goes on backstage. I have some connections, but I don't really like to, I'm not a reporter. I'm a fan. And I'm not trying to put down anybody. Even though I'm not going to lie, I respect the crap out of these reporters and people that work. But like, it's also eternally frustrating. Like if Ronda just showed up at the Rumble, would have been epic. But the fact that like news breaks like a few days before and like or rumors start popping up, like I didn't suspect it at all. I don't think people would have suspected it. But nonetheless, a lot of news breaking that like Shane was a big reason for the craziness of the Rumble. We didn't get these showdowns we thought we'd get, like Dominic and Rey Mysterio in the Rumble together. Maybe a little more Randy and Riddle stuff. Could have had stuff with, the Street Profits. Could have done stuff with the Alpha Academy. I still think we got to build Otis up to be like Earthquake 2.0, in my opinion. We're not really going that route. He's going back to being a caricature. But then it's all allegedly Shane took over, and 3 days later went from Shane having a WrestleMania match, maybe Rollins, maybe Lashley, maybe gone. He is no longer with the company. I'm like, what is happening here? WrestleVotes, a mostly reliable Twitter account, said something like the effects of Shane's release will have impact for years to come. What does that mean? But I guess it also means like Vince is getting rid of his family. We don't know the future of Triple H. So maybe there is, I don't know whether it's sales or it's just Nick Khan's now going to take over WWE. Who the hell knows? But yeah, Brock won the Royal Rumble. He comes out on Raw, says he's challenging Roman Reigns, but he says it's going to be title for title. So we've been touting this title for title on television for the last month since Brock pinned Big E, which we'll get to, in the main event of day one. So they got to do it, right? Like Lashley gets a title. Is he going to have as short of a run as Brock just did? Is Brock going to win back the title, go to WrestleMania? Because he's in the Elimination Chamber. That's where the frustrating part, because I just said that him winning the Rumble makes sense, because then you can have, a whole mysterious who's going to win the Elimination Chamber. But now you got Bobby Lashley, who's the champion for no reason, going into that chamber with the championship. Like, that should be a contenders match. Then you got Riddle, AJ Styles, Brock Lesnar. I don't remember all the other contenders. Is Rollins? I think Rollins is actually in there. And I can't remember the fifth guy. But either way, I don't think that. Oh, it's Austin Theory. So that's going to be a fun match. But I almost think, don't you have to go Brock, or do you do Roman interferes in the Elimination Chamber? But why would he do? Or maybe Reigns interferes in the Elimination Chamber to help Brock win, because then he can dominate with both titles. Combine the titles at WrestleMania, because I still think there's something there. I think WWE can do it. You got a lot of money on the line from both these Fox and USA or NBC Universal. Why not have one champion, floats between shows? It would be great. It would take Roman Reigns to the next level. Different competitors, something we've always wanted. I think, if he wins both, the following pay-per-view, you get to have, you could actually build up actual contendership. You could have intriguing matches on Raw and SmackDown. Then maybe a Raw versus SmackDown guy for a number one contender shot. That could get interesting. I'm just throwing this out there. Sami Zayn to face Kevin Owens for a number one shot for the WWE title at the next pay-per-view. Or you could do those matches at pay-per-view. So you can really put some stakes into your matches instead of just all these title matches. But that was fascinating. Also, I did brief over it, the return of Ronda Rousey. I love to see it. She did a thing on Raw. We got Lita returning. Lita's going to be facing Becky at an Elimination Chamber, which, by the way, is in Saudi Arabia. I think it's taking place noon on a Sunday. That's going to be cool. Very different. No football season will be over. ESPN now has hockey, so there's no hockey in the middle of the day. I know people may not care about that, but I just think about what my usual potential sports viewing is on a Sunday afternoon. So right now it looks like everything's lining up to have a WrestleMania main event. Probably night one, I'm guessing, will be, depends on what they do with this title stuff. Right now I'm guessing night one will be Charlotte and Ronda Rousey. Night two would be Brock versus Roman, potentially title for title. If they don't go that route, we'll probably have, does Bobby keep it? Do we get Bobby versus Seth? Do we get Bobby versus AJ Styles? Bobby versus Big E? Maybe. Randy Orton, by the way, another thing, he looks like he's going to be out for a little bit of time. So Matt Riddle, this could be a really interesting time, or Riddle could be an interesting time to see him get him a little bit of shine. It could be fascinating there. We also found out that Big E no longer cares about his championship. Kofi had a botch during the Rumble. Big E was in there. You could tell he had no idea what to do when he came in, because you knew they had some sort of plan with the two of them. And now Big E's just like a tag team guy on SmackDown. He was literally the champion going into this year. Maybe one of the worst title runs of all time, because it never had a shot. And that's a first title run like that. And I know WWE usually does the first one's kind of weird, and then the second one's like the good one. Kind of like your love life. But I don't know. That was just strange booking. And he just doesn't care. Now he's fighting in matches against Los Lotharios. He's getting wins. They did this a little bit to Bianca when she came out, but I feel like they cooled her just for the hottest minute. Now she's winning kind of squash matches, and I like that. Build them back up. That's what fine. But just have Big E say something. I just want all these wrestlers to want something instead of just in matches and being goofy. He was being goofy backstage with Los Lotharios, where a month ago, a month and a week ago, he was at Madison Square Garden as the WWE champion, representing the whole company. It's just so strange. And I don't care about the politics either. I don't. I'm a fan. I'm a viewer. We're watching things. When I'm watching 911, I can't think of a ton of scripted shows, or Ozark, I don't care about the politics of people like Jason Bateman or not, but he's the star of the show. He's the front person that you have to build the show around. So if you're going to give Big E a championship, let's make him matter. You don't have to do anything insane with him. Just make him matter. So we'll pivot over. I don't know where he goes. I'd love to see him back. I'll be honest. I was never really bought in on him being a main eventer. If you want, my personal take, I don't think they ever did enough to give him a little more of an edge. And I knew the whole thing was we're making him a main eventer, but keeping him the same, which I think is a catch-22. I think he deserves better. I don't care about the goofy gear. I don't care about the dancing. I just think something that an edge or like a, not the wrestler, but like a physical or a mental edge or like something strifing on the, it almost reminds me of the character of No Way Jose. I know, strange. But when he was in NXT, his whole thing was he was goofy, fun-loving until somebody made him angry. And then he was like fierce. And when he's in the ring, he was angry. And I think we could have had a little something there. Or at least Big E, like, tell everybody who he is, why he is. And then like all this is happening while like, by the way, besides the point, I don't know if this has any, I'm not trying to, actually, I won't even allude to it, but Amanda Huber of John Huber, a.k.a. Brody Lee, who passed a year ago, this past Christmas, she wrote a big Players Tribune article, and it came out in that article that Cody Rhodes and Big E were there when she told her son that her husband is like dying, or it had died. I think it's dying. And like Cody and it's just crazy. And the story was like Big E wasn't anywhere. I know he's down in Florida or something. I'm misquoting a little bit, but he like left. She told him, he's like, I'll be there. So that's the kind of guy he is. You don't want to like rally that kind of guy to the top of your card and like, I don't want to say the word exploit because that's so bad, but like highlight that. Even with Cody Rhodes, like his character's so bizarre in AEW, his wife's character's so bizarre. But if these are like genuinely pretty good people, I don't need them to be heels, and I don't give a crap what the crowd says. I don't. You can just make him edgy. You can make him cool. Like I still think Cody's like one of the potentially best baby faces this whole industry could have. I'm a believer in Cody. I think what he did took a lot of balls. I think he was like the beginning of all what has happened. I know AEW came from Jericho versus Omega, but I still think Cody Rhodes is a huge part of that. I don't know. Again, I feel like there's a lot of politics. And maybe he is an egomaniac, which I don't really care. Again, just portray a character. I don't expect all the people I like that are actors to be good people. But it seems like he is a salt of the earth. If he did what, just being there for somebody in that time of need. We'll just wrap up with AEW. We'll make it quick here. This went a little longer than potentially expected. But AEW put out MJF versus CM Punk, the main event of Dynamite. This match felt like it. This match didn't feel as important as it should have. I thought we were going to get like a weird Smoz thing early and they were going to like have to push the match out. Like this is a pay-per-view match. I don't know why they did it here, and they did in Chicago, and the Chicago crowd didn't feel like the Chicago crowd I'm used to. I don't know the venue they were in. It wasn't the Allstate Arena, I don't believe, or Rosemont Horizon, but that's, I think, the old one that talked about the wood up top that bounces all the sound. Either way, I might be wrong on that, but I didn't love this match. This match never gripped me like I thought it would. Didn't do what MJF Darby did. Maybe it's because all the promos that led here. I did like some of the storytelling with MJF cheating to win by choking Punk out, getting caught, being the match restarted. Later, Wardlow comes out. Is he defending MJF? Is he kind of let CM Punk do what he wants? MJF kind of lets CM Punk do what he wants, but tosses the ring, the AEW Dynamite ring in the ring to MJF, who clocks Punk, pins him in Chicago, beats him. I could have seen this whole story play out, whatever, a month from now on pay-per-view, but AEW does things different, and I also respect the crap out of them for that. So it's a catch-22 for me. Like next week, we get Adam Hangman Page versus the River Hawk Monster in a Texas death match, and I think it takes place not in Texas. But again, so what does that lead for him at the pay-per-view? We get an MJF versus Hangman Page? And also, didn't this whole CM Punk MJF thing kind of make you kind of want to see Wardlow MJF? My guess right now is you're either going to get MJF versus Punk again at the pay-per-view, or we might get Wardlow versus Punk. And if they push MJF up to the title, but we also have the ladder match, the Face of the Revolution, which I don't know where they're going to go with that one right now. There's going to be someone that's going to be debuting this Wednesday night. It's just fascinating stuff, in my opinion. I'm up and down on AEW at times. I'm a fan. I still think it's the most fun show to watch, but I'm not always like, I don't know. I'm not enthralled every week like I was maybe a little while ago. It could be, I don't know exactly what it is. I don't know how to put my finger on it, but I'm still watching all wrestling. I think, there's quality shows. I think SmackDown overall is still a very quality show. I think there's something about a 2-hour show that seems concentrated that really helps. Just the pacing and give me random stories here and there. And just the last note I'll mention is this Moxley Danielson thing is really cool. I'm into that. I like the way Danielson's just on another level. And Daniel Bryan's still one of my favorite wrestlers, still one of the best moments in the history of me ever as a wrestling fan. WrestleMania 30 when he won that main event, because it had me believing that they weren't going to give it to him. They had me believing that he was going to lose that match. And they had me believing he could have lost even a Triple H earlier in the night. That was at a time where I thought WWE was at an all-time low. I don't mean that rude, but it's like, this is the guy. He's right here for you. You did this, by the way. You created it. It's okay to continue. It's like if you wanted to make a pumpkin pie, but you stumbled into a blueberry pie. Well, you made the pie, and the pie can be really good. That's what they did in 2013 into 14. But instead, they then eventually just crapped on it and then made him retire when probably shouldn't or didn't need to. Maybe he could have just took a year off or 2 years. Story for another time, I guess. But yeah, I really like the storytelling with him and Moxley. I think that could really be intriguing. Do we get a 2-man power trip? Do we go Moxley denies him? Does he go with him for a week and then turn on him? Does other people play into this? All these people they mentioned. I just like the way AEW does that, because that's the stuff that makes me feel like, oh, I don't know where they're going. It doesn't seem as polished. And everybody says that. So that's my thoughts on AEW. That's my thoughts on everything is wrestling. Again, I'm Jason Rossi. You can follow me on Twitter, where you may be seeing this, or you might be seeing this on our YouTube, or you might not see this at all. Either way, we're going to continue to do some of this, have some fun conversations, join people for maybe some everything is wrestling Rossi roundtables, and we'll just discuss some wrestling, book some stuff. We'll kick it and have some fun. So appreciate you listening, watching, wherever you are. Hope you have a great day. And just remember, every time you see anything, everything is wrestling.